Hey, welcome to Neversink Farm, and I am going to be seeding a tray of lettuce using the Vertigo. So I'm just going to go through seeding one tray so you can see how I use the Vertigo and singulate some seed. And that's pretty much it. This is a finished tray. This is radicchio, but it's done exactly the same way. If you want to singulate a lot of seed, and since we do a lot of lettuce head, we will do trays of this a week. I mean, in the summer, we have a drop seeder set up just for lettuce that we never change out. So you can just grab it and start making them. That was a lot because, you know, drop seeders were pretty hard to deal with and I never wanted to change plates. That's not true with the Vertigo, but I'm used to it now and that's what I want to do. Okay, so see it says pelleted lettuce. So I advise just taking a Sharpie and just writing what you put in this, and near this part where we already laser what the plate size and seed hole size and the layout. Here's a WInstrip 72, so that we keep that in the far corner so that I can go through and just be like, oh, what do I need? And grab it. Keep it nice and organized. Okay. And here you can see in this corner, same corner, WInstrip 72. Okay, lasered on there. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna get it set up. Nice. What I like to get it, you know, before you do 50 trays of seeds, I like to make sure the seeder is clean. It doesn't have a bunch of junk in there. And make sure there's no static. It's important to discharge it with a wet rag, let it dry out, or dryer sheets. Okay, all good. Okay, so these are going in a WInstrip 72. Now lettuce can go in any size tray. It is a very common question. And I'm not sure how the cell size equating to vegetables became connected. Because it's really not, right? Your cell size is how big of a start you want, how long you want to keep it in a tray, not you got to use lettuce with a 72. It's just not true. There are farms that use a 400 tray for lettuce. And then there's home gardeners which will use a pot this big for lettuce. They're going to grow it to a lettuce head in that pot. So it's how much space do you have on your tables? How quickly do you want to get it into the field? What size do you want it in the field? Because the bigger size, the quicker to harvest. How precious is the spot out there versus how precious is the space in here, right? If this place is, if your prop house is precious, you don't have a lot of it, then you can put it in a 200 tray, right? Get it out to the field where it's not as precious. You have lots of space out there. So that's it. It's up to you. All right, so lettuce. Let's fill these trays. This is a 72. I mean, we used to do a lot of stuff in 72s. Not as much anymore. We do more 128 because the space, but it doesn't matter. What am I doing? Okay, so what I do is I fill them right in the bin, okay? And when we're doing a lot, I do it obviously faster, but I'm trying to show you guys, okay? I push it in with my hand. Okay, right it across, you know, focus on the corners and the edges, okay? And then give it a tap. And if you're not doing a lot of them, you can just, you know, push it in a little bit. You don't want to compact the soil too much, but, you know, and if you see any that, you know, it's usually on the corners for whatever reason, but, okay? And then the stuff that's in here will just drop through. because it's smaller on top than it is on the bottom, right? The cells are sloped inwards. Okay. And then I always dibble. Okay. Here's the 72. Okay. Just center it up, just like that. And then when you dibble, it's just how hard you press is how deep. But the depth of a dibble is not really that important. Okay. It's just a place to hold the seed. You obviously don't want to bury it 2 inches down, and you don't want to have no dibble, but in between it's not going to make much of a difference. See, that's just a little dibble. Just gives you a place to center it. What I like about the dibble for me is because I use a germ chamber, I'm not covering with soil, therefore it gives a place for it to stay nice and moist inside a little dibble. Even though it stays moist in a germ chamber, that just gives you less risk. Right? Which less risk is always good. Okay, now if I'm seeding on the same table, I'll keep a less dirty spot because I'm not using a stand, so it's going to be sitting not in the dirt. And then I'll have my trays stacked up over here. If I want to singulate seed, I'm going to use pelleted seed. Other seed is going to be hard to singulate. You may be able to do a beet, a radish, but who's singulating radish seed? Things that need to be singulated, you're going to be able to find in pelleted, okay? And pelleted seed, if you look closely at them, they're actually not round, you know? They're going to be sort of oblong shaped, maybe some pointy ends, and that's just the nature of how you make them. You know, they're rolling around, they're not rolling perfectly all the time. So you're going to want a hole that gives it room, so that one fits in there, not two, but one fits in there loosely. Okay, so this is pelleted lettuce. So pelleted lettuce, I'm going to be using a 3 millimeter plate with a 4.5 millimeter hole. Okay, you might find that you need bigger or you may need smaller, depending on your seed, but that's what I'm using here. And as I said, the tray size doesn't matter. This is a 72, but if you're using a 200, it'll still be a 3 millimeter plate and a 4.5 millimeter hole. That'll just be for a 200, okay? Okay. So by habit, I'm always pulling this slightly out because I never want to push it in while I'm getting the seeds in, okay? And just want to roll it until every single hole. And the more seeds you use, the better. Okay? Okay. Okay. So now, you know, the more seeds you use because you're gonna get it faster, right? You can't really put too many seeds in here. It's just gonna be easier the more seeds you have because just by law of averages, it's gonna fill it up faster and you're gonna move quicker. So I keep it nice and full as I'm seeding trays. So I keep it, you know, I keep the seeds right next to me and just keep pouring them in so that I keep it nice and loaded. And you don't have to worry. I know other seeders, they didn't have a seeding area, but this has a little hill. So most of your seeds aren't going to roll over, right? They're going to stay on one side, right? Okay, so once I have them in every cell, and obviously this is happening fast when you're doing it, right? Then you just go over the tray, okay? And you can use your fall lines, all right? It's going to be easier to see out here. Okay, see these are fall lines, okay? And you want to line those up with your cells. Can you see it? Okay, and you do each opposite corner. So you're going to do one corner and one corner, and once you do it a few times, you're going to be so fast. You're just going to line that up, and then go, okay? And then that's it. And they all drop into your thing, and you can see. You have one cell per. And you can do that, boom, boom, boom. You can be doing it every 10 seconds. You could be, you know, doing a tray. And it just speeds things up incredibly. And, you know, as long as you size this correctly, you won't have to tap this one like you do with multiple seeds. Because multiple seeds will, you know, get in there together, but that's not even a big deal. And so you just go tray after tray after tray. And you just get used to those fall lines that you just match it up. Because I think some people, what they'll do is try to line up every hole, and you don't. You only need to do that corner and this corner, right? And that the fall line is supposed to go through the center of the cell, right? You put it on, you're good to go. And you just drop the seed. All right, okay, and then I'm done with my trays. Okay, just carefully move them down to the bottom. There we go. Okay, so after this is I'll put them under the mister. 5 minutes, it's on a timer. Then they go into the germ chamber, and very important, they get marked. I think some people put dates, but I never put dates on my trays. Because what does the date matter? All right, it's ready when it's ready, okay? And I always put it on this side, and that's by habit, because when they come over here, right, they'll be facing out. And why that's important is because they go into the germ chamber that way. And then when I open the germ chamber, right, you'll notice all of we only mark on one side, but that's always facing out. So we know what they are when they're coming out. And you can see when they come out of a germ chamber, look, it's called 100%. That's lettuce. You're not gonna find one that's not germinated. It's 100%, right? If one isn't germinated, it's because it's 99% germinated seed, right? Right, so once they germinate, that one I just pulled out needs to go to the table, but I'll do that in a minute. Then they go to the table, they sit on the table until they're ready to plant. And that is lettuce. All right, so thanks for watching. Until next time.